Good morning, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. It is my pleasure and privilege to be here today. I would like to warmly welcome you to Georgia and to the International Literature Forum. This forum has been organized by the Economic Policy Research Center and Stanford University's Center on Democracy, Development and the Rule of Law with the kind support of Open Society Georgia Foundation. We are very excited that you're here. And I understand the main focus of your time here is to discuss the future of democratization and how best to build a modern state. However, during your stay, I hope you will do two things. First, I hope you will take the time to see Georgia. I'm obviously biased, but Georgia is a truly wonderful place. In a very small country, we have packed in beautiful beaches, fantastic mountains, historic sites from before, during, and after the Roman Empire, and much more. And our people are famous for their hospitality, and our food and wine are just delicious. So let's just say that even those of you coming from a place near Napa Valley will be craving our wine when you return home. So please enjoy all my country has to offer and bring back your friends in Georgia. Second, I know you are here to learn from the Georgian experience and to examine how our experience might provide lessons for building modern democratic states around the world. However, I hope you will also leave us with your expert advice on how Georgia can continue to improve. And while we have made significant strides over the last 2 years, the story of our democratic advancement is not finished. I'd like to take a moment to give you my thoughts on the arc of Georgia's democratic development. Overall, we are on the right trajectory. The Georgia of today is completely another world compared to 2 decades ago. Every area of our country, from health to education, to the economy, and especially for the purpose of today's forum, democracy, rule of law, and human rights, has progressed in leaps and bounds. And frankly speaking, it has not always been easy, and getting to this point in time has been a fierce struggle against many forces, both foreign and domestic, that have sought to slow our progress. As a child, I remember what life was like when Georgia was part of the Soviet Union. It was a struggle, but we always believed in the promise of a better future. And then the wall came down and so much changed. I'm part of a new generation of Georgians who have grown up, seen, and lived in remarkable change in our nation. The transition from Soviet domination to charting our own independent path as a nation has not been easy. There have been deep setbacks, but also we have seen the exhilaration of moving toward a stronger democracy. I leave it to this group to discuss the details of our history, but it is fair to say our path to democracy looks like the stock market. Generally, it has improved over time, but there have been crashes along the way. Our second president and one of the architects of the end of the Cold War, Eduard Shevardnadze, came into power with a reform agenda to bring stability to Georgia. And despite many expectations and a strong start, over time elements of his government became corrupt, the courts never became independent, and the institutions of democracy never fully emerged. So then the people of Georgia finally could not stand seeing their country fail and peacefully stood up for their rights during the 2003 Rose Revolution. The Rose Revolution swept in a new group of young leaders who launched many new initiatives, especially in terms of ending corruption in the police and making it easier for business to operate. But, however, over time, this group began to abuse their power, and democratic development was again stifled. There is a trend here that reformers come in with the high expectation, but over time become ineffective or act with impunity. And my government came to power in the first truly free election in Georgia's history and took part in the first peaceful transfer of power from one party to another. And my government is mainly made up of human rights lawyers, former diplomats, managers, successful people. So when we came to power, we had a very clear idea of what problems in Georgia's democratic infrastructure needed to be addressed to ensure we did not repeat the mistakes of the past. So we also partnered with many Western countries to learn from them. At our request, the European Union was kind enough to send Mr. Thomas Hammerberg to carry out a full assessment of our rule of law and human rights situation and provide recommendations. So through this process, we identified several key areas where reform was critically needed, including restoring the rule of law, establishing an independent judiciary and democratic institutions, protecting fundamental human rights and freedoms, ensuring free and fair elections, and ending the impunity of government officials. Now, on restoring the rule of law and establishing judicial independence, before we came to office, Georgia had a 99% conviction rate, and plea bargaining was used as blackmail. There was also widespread government-run torture in Georgia's prison, and this was especially painful to cite given Georgia's incredibly high per capita prison population. We fought against torture in the prisons. We removed government control over the judiciary and allowed an independent body to appoint new judges. We gave defendants more rights and ended coercive plea bargaining. And we also improved the quality of the prosecutor's office. I know it is not perfect, but we're improving it every day. And I personally oversaw the destruction of all illegal surveillance captured by the previous government for blackmail purposes. Governments rarely brag about this, but I am happy to say that our prosecutors' conviction rate has gone down. And more importantly, fewer cases are even being brought to trial. The justice system will serve as the ultimate guarantor of our people's freedom and a source of stability for the future that enables people and businesses to thrive. Strengthening Georgia's democratic institutions is a top priority for me and for our government. While elements of our constitution looked good on paper in the past, in practice there was no real check on central authority. The parliament now functions like a true legislature. Laws are proposed, debated and amended. Committees hold hearings and grill ministers. The old rubber stamp has been put away. The president is no longer the chief executive and is no longer all-powerful. And this rebalancing of power was necessary for the full development of Georgia's democratic institutions. Protection of fundamental human rights and freedoms, including minority rights, are also among our key priorities. As I mentioned, Mr. Thomas Hammerberg and the EU provided important advice on improving overall human rights in Georgia. And working with them, we developed a new national human rights strategy, an action plan that is designed to bring the country's legal and institutional frameworks, as well as human rights culture and practice, in line with European standards within 7 years. No other country has a plan like this. And the plan touches upon law enforcement, the judicial and penitentiary systems, the labor market, social services, as well as institutional national and local government structures. Progress will be measured and officials will be held accountable for implementation. I should also mention media freedom in this context. In the past, Georgia consistently received poor marks for its media freedom, especially with the government's seizure of the opposition TV channel station Imedi in 2007. We are committed to building a truly strong, independent, and high-quality media. The media, like civil society, is essential to a strong democracy. And while I may not always like what the media or civil society has to say or write about me and my government, I will fight to make sure they have that right. Thank you. Thank you. And we still have a long way to go, especially on this issue of media polarization and alignment with political parties. But I'm happy to report that in 2008, Georgia was 120th in Reporters Without Borders Index of press freedom, and we are now up to 84th place. So there's a big progress. Ensuring repetitive democratic elections is also essential for our continued progress. It's not enough that my government came to power in a peaceful, free and fair parliamentary election in 2012. It is incumbent upon to ensure every election is free and fair. Unfortunately, with my work, with much work, the 2013 presidential election and this year's local elections were praised by international observers as free and fair. So these last elections paved the way for the decentralization of more power and responsibility to the local government. This development will strengthen democracy and the social contract between the government and the people. The era of stolen elections in Georgia is long gone. And my team will have to earn every vote during the next parliamentary election in 2016. Again, I have somehow led an effort that makes my job harder, but it must be done. Finally, the most complicated issue we must face is ending impunity among government officials. Sadly, many government officials in previous administrations and even my own have treated the state like their possessions. They have stolen money, used the elements of state power to achieve personal goals, and abused their fellow citizens, especially those in the opposition or media, in an attempt to stay in power. For too long, government officials acted as if the law did not apply to them. That must never be allowed to happen again. And those responsible most must be held accountable by our justice system. We have done our best to keep politics out of the prosecution of former government officials. Any issues of criminal behavior, past or present, are sent to the independent prosecutor to determine the course of justice. It isn't for anyone in the government to decide what cases get prosecuted and who is punished. It is for the system of justice to determine. So far, domestic and international observers have found that the court's process in Georgia has been fair, absolutely transparent, and meets the highest international standards. I fundamentally believe that if we create a new standard, that impunity will no longer be tolerated, and no one is above the law, then government officials will be less likely to commit crimes. Furthermore, now that our rule of law and judicial institutions have been strengthened, we have the tools to investigate and prosecute cases against government officials without political interference. A related key component in Georgia's path to democracy has been our European and Euro-Atlantic integration. Our commitment to aligning more closely with the United States and Europe goes hand in hand with our commitment to continued democratic transformation. Increased Euro-Atlantic and European integration is a way of returning to the family of European nations, with whom we share history, culture, and most importantly, the values. Our new association agreement with the European Union and our ever-deepening ties to NATO underpin this relationship and provide a master plan for even more robust engagement. My government, ladies and gentlemen, values the close, strategically important relation with the United States and Europe. And I see great potential for future political, economic, and security collaboration. Georgia is America and Europe's dear friend and ally, no matter which political party is in power in Georgia. Our interests align and our friendship runs deep. The beauty of democracy is that just because the captain may change, the ship is still heading in the right direction. Of course, we face many complex issues. But I'm proud of the progress we are making to reform our justice system and our entire government as we continue to improve and strengthen our democratic institutions. Our government is dedicated to the creation of a true democracy that is open and accountable to the people and country and upholds the rule of law. I wake up every day focused on the needs and aspirations of the Georgian people. And I mean every Georgian citizen, not just those that voted for our party, but every single Georgian must benefit from our democracy and our economy. And my job is to move this country forward. And the people must have elected us to make a sharp break from the past. They want a democracy that works, an economy that works, and a free and secure nation that works on their behalf of every single day. It is important for my government to constantly remind the nation and ourselves that we are still a young democracy, a work in progress. So we need your help in ensuring that Georgia truly lives up to this reputation as a leading democracy in the region. Once again, I would like to thank the organizers and all of you for your passion and willingness to come to Georgia. And I wish you all the best for a very productive and educational and fun time in Georgia. Thank you very much indeed.